Hello and welcome to our virtual Lunch and Learn today. We'll be talking about Parts Management Agreements, PMAs. My name is Rachel Green and I'm the Digital Communication Specialist here at McNaughton-McKay Electric Company. And presenting for us today will be Aaron Brock, Services Specialist out of our New Bern, North Carolina location. Ready to answer your questions out in the comments today is Lindsay Jeffrey, Rockwell Services Specialist out of our LaGrange, Georgia location. Feel free to enter your questions in the comment section as we go along, and we'll have a Q&A portion at the end for Aaron to answer those in more depth. We'll be getting started shortly, but we'd like to allow a few minutes for attendees to join us here on the live stream. As you come in, let us know where you're tuning in from in the comment section. You can view recordings of previous virtual Lunch and Learns on our YouTube channel under the Virtual Lunch and Learn playlist, and we cover a new topic every Wednesday at noon, so be sure to join us on your lunch break. For anyone just coming in, welcome to our virtual Lunch and Learn Parts Management Agreement. Let us know where you're joining us from in the comments. You can enter your questions in the comment section while our presenter Aaron Brock talks to us about a cost-saving solution to provide on-site, reliable, critical spare parts for your applications. Our specialist Lindsay Jeffrey is available to chat with you in the comment section, and Aaron will be available to answer your questions during the Q&A segment at the end of the presentation. If you'd like to reach out afterward, or if you have further questions for Aaron, you can send us an email at macandmaclive@mc-mc.com. Just be sure to let us know which session you attended. We'll have that email address on the screen at the end for you as well. And it looks like we are all set and ready to go. So Aaron, I'll pass it over to you.
Okay, thank you, Rachel, for working to make these videos possible. Thanks, Lindsay, for being out in the comments section for us and manning any questions. So as you can see from the title, yes, this is about the parts management agreement that we're going to discuss today. And for the agenda, today's Lunch and Learn is focusing again on the parts management agreement. We're going to take a look at some challenges that many facilities face in the battle to manage inventories, what that sort of looks like. Then we'll take a quick look at the service tools that your service specialists can help you understand and also walk with you down that journey. And then we'll focus on the parts management agreement itself, what it is as far as its features, and then the benefits that you can expect to receive from it. We're getting started. So if you spent much time at all in a manufacturing facility, you have probably seen these questions come around. Why are we not stocking this? We need to reduce inventory by how much? Our downtime cost is what? Yeah, these are questions that a lot of people face when managing inventories in a plant facility. And hopefully today we'll see some things that can help answer those questions and provide solutions to those types of questions. So inventory management. This is quite a topic to cover. So just keep in mind that this is not exactly a comprehensive analysis of inventory management, but we are taking a high-level view of it today for normal everyday considerations and how that may affect inventories should be treated within your facility. And again, if you spend any time in a manufacturing facility or a wastewater facility or mining, both heavy and light manufacturing, you'll eventually hear the phrase MRO inventory. So what is MRO inventory? Well, it stands for maintenance, repair, and operations. So in general, most anything in the facility that's needed to keep your plant or facility up and running, to keep business moving, is many times lumped into this category of inventory. That typically does not include raw materials. So those items usually get kept separate from the MRO inventories. So like in a bread plant, your raw materials might be grain or flour or sugar, just as an example. but not necessarily some of the replacement parts that you may need. And then from MRO, there's a subcategory of inventory that would be called critical spares inventory. And this is really where I like to begin the conversation or consulting a customer around using the PMA service. But to do that, we need a little bit better understanding of what the critical spares should be and how to determine that. They're usually going to be items that have a high impact on production capabilities, operational status of the facility, and even the safety of the workforce and personnel sometimes. Your critical spare parts that you need to keep there are critical spare parts that you need to keep your critical assets up and running. Example, so in a tire plant, if you ask a maintenance manager or a plant engineer, what machine keeps him or her up at night, and those will probably be the critical assets that a plant considers. For the tire, a mixer might be one of those because you can't make specific rubber compounds to make tires. So you need to be making rubber to make tires. So that's definitely would be considered a critical asset, right? But that isn't necessarily a good way to evaluate critical assets. A reliability specialist would tell you that a criticality analysis should be completed to get a more comprehensive review. And let's keep in mind that these critical assets would be customer specific. So it would be different for most facilities. There's no ready-made list that has to be that's available or evaluated. You'd have to do that locally at your facility. So what is a criticality analysis? It's a process by which assets are assigned a criticality rating based on their potential risk. So some of the different teams that would have an interest in going through the process to identify critical assets. You can see here you have operations, engineering, maintenance, materials management, employee health and safety. What you would want to do is, if most teams would be interested in participating, is a person from each group would meet together for a meeting or a series of meetings to go through the process. We won't necessarily detail the process today. That would be a topic for another video. But there are a lot of resources available to guide you through the process and help present a structured framework to go through that type of analysis. Once you've had a chance to evaluate the critical assets in the plant, then you can do a deeper dive in those assets to see what the bill of materials are that make them up, which items are needed to keep them running, and if you have these spare parts or not in your facility. You could take a look at how difficult are those spares to get? Are they costly or not? And help build a plan of where you are and where you need to go. Here's a little quote specifically speaking about MRO inventory and critical spares. The value of the average MRO inventory in the United States is between $8 and $12 million. And critical spare parts can represent up to 80% of that. So when we say critical spares, we're not talking about peanuts here. This is a significant investment for most facilities. And that statistic really only looks at the value, right? So there are additional costs that go along with that, like carrying costs, the shelf space to host these parts or have these parts, and the replacement costs when you utilize these parts. So again, that's just one figure, but it's a good statistical figure. Inventory challenges. So these are the things that facilities struggle with every day to maintain adequate spares within their facility, and the decisions they have to make that contribute to what happens to those parts, or when and if they are or purchased or acquired. So one of the things that you would run into would be needing spares for new equipment. Every facility, from greenfield plants to mature facilities, they will need to replace aging machinery, or even new parts for new machinery, right? Whether the equipment is just worn out, or if decisions are made more around increasing efficiencies, expanding production, or simply just changing of technologies. Um, when you bring new machines into your facility, you're going to need to have you know spares to help maintain that piece of equipment. And there's usually a bill of materials that comes along with a new piece of equipment to help at least narrow down what you may need. Obsolescence. So uh, kind of coming along the same line there. Eventually, every machine will have individual systems on it that become obsolete and will need to be modernized for newer technology. The control systems, PLCs, processors, communication cards, drives, motion and servo, HMI, even push buttons and relays and power supplies. They'll all reach an end of life status at some point. So then you're faced with managing the spares until you can upgrade, or also what to do with the dead inventory once you do upgrade. Duplication. Sometimes when sourcing parts, whether it's because of part number confusion within a facility, personnel turnover, new equipment coming in with similar parts. But in that case, maybe the machine builder uses their own part number, which causes confusion because it may be the same as a part that as the OEM part number. So um, that creates confusion. Or even, let's say, a newer version of a piece of equipment comes out, like a series change. You could end up with identical parts essentially, that have different local part numbers, creating excess inventories on your shelf and excess costs. Insufficient critical spares. So we already touched on this topic a little bit, but it's really the central issue when discussing inventories in general. Inventories should be there for a reason, and spare parts to maintain equipment, reduce downtime, increase productivity. They all have a direct effect on the bottom line for manufacturers, or the ability to service customers, when it comes to wastewater and utilities. Maybe you're not making something, but you are providing a necessary service. Um, where do you find the money to bridge the gap between where you are and where you need to be to reduce downtime risk? And what options are available to you? So hopefully today we'll shed a little light on those options. Inventory integrity. So, we're talking about having critical spares and spare parts on the shelf. I mean, that's solving a huge problem just by itself. But how good are those parts that you have on the shelf? And I mean, that's something that should be addressed as well while looking at maintaining inventory and inventory management. Are those parts new? Are the parts remanufactured? If not, do you know where they came from? Um, were they supplied by the manufacturer? If not, do you know where they've been? Are they capable of carrying programming or networking? Do you trust that they're not compromised, with damaging malware or spyware? With information security being such a huge concern for companies right now, I'm not sure how many are considering the equipment that's going into their OT network, but it should be a priority because these are additional ways that can create problems. Strategic lifecycle management. One of the things that customers are seeing right now are pressures on our supply chain, and that's due to several issues like lingering COVID effects, workforce challenges, raw materials, political and civil unrest. Supply chain issues are typically out of our control, and they're things that have to be dealt with as they arise. When it comes to our inventories, we don't um, we don't really have control over what's going on around the world, right? We can control what's going on locally. So, and we're in a global society now, a global economy. So that stuff seems to matter more and more. Um, there are things that we can plan for to ease the frustration if we utilize services that are available to us. It sort of goes, kind of hand in hand with obsolescence. But it's more about the approach that you take to deal with it. It's the plan that you have, as it were. Rockwell's life cycle model enables that type of planning, which we'll take a look at in a little bit. And the PMA as well, as you'll see, will give flexibility to carry out these types of plans. Carrying costs. The finance and accounting offices in your facility are probably more concerned about these types of costs than maintenance or engineering would be. But they are legitimate costs, and how your inventory is managed can affect these costs. And again, there's always pressures within facilities and companies to reduce costs and lower these things that affect, where cash flow is in other places, or even just overall bottom line. So that's another thing that's considered when inventory challenges are being addressed. So the solutions tool belt. I'm sort of borrowing this concept from a colleague of mine, but I think it paints a great picture of what options are available to you and your services specialist that can assist with addressing many of the concerns that we've been speaking about. Um, so, when looking at a solutions tool belt, kind of what does that look like, right? Um, well, let's picture the tool belt as, it's got 3 pockets for now. And each one of those pockets has a specific type of tool to help address concerns. So in the first pocket would be information solutions type things. The install-based evaluation, or an IBE as we say in short, it's an information type solution. So what is the IBE? It's where we would come in your plant and record the assets you have in electrical panels around the facility, put together different reporting and life cycle information for those specific assets. It's information that allows you to plan, right? So this is also something that could assist in the previous stage of where we were evaluating critical assets and the critical spares that those critical assets need within the facility. Sometimes you may not know, what you have in your plant. So having that knowledge will empower you through that planning process. And then storeroom assessment, that's another information solution. So that's where we would send someone in to kind of walk through how you manage your storeroom, look at the processes in place, how you utilize your CMMS system to evaluate the movement of items through your storeroom. And it would come with information on best practices or different ways to change and organize and provide solutions that create better fluidity throughout your storeroom and how you manage your inventories, right? So more information solution there. All these solutions on this page it's not comprehensive. There are additional ones, but this is just kind of giving a snapshot of how your service specialist can assist you and some of the options. So in the framework of, or the second pocket in that tool belt would be plan solutions. Okay, so plan solutions are around like preventative maintenance programs. Very important to maintain the everyday wear and tear of machines. So that's one option for plan solutions. You also have lockout, tagout, and arc flash safety programs. They're important in facilities and need to be updated on a routine basis. Whenever things are added to the facility, you'll need to assess these safety programs, right? When you expand a facility, expand production, modernize your equipment. These things are also need to be taken into concern. And this is also where, we mentioned before that safety and health group being involved with the planning of managing critical assets and critical spares would like to be involved, right? So that's another plan solution that's available to you. Inventory solution. So this is kind of the one that we're highlighting today, the PMA. The PMA is an inventory solution for you guys, and you'll see the features of that coming up and how they kind of relate to the topic, the problems and challenges we're discussing today. Workforce development programs. So that's also another tool for providing a plan solution. So, we know that people are retiring, a lot of wisdom is going out the door. And replacing those individuals is becoming an increasingly difficult challenge, especially with the advancements of technology, which is happening so rapidly. So workforce development programs would be training specific programs that would be tailored for your specific need with the equipment that you have on hand, the technology that's included in those pieces of equipment, and the solutions that we could provide through training your workforce to make sure they're up to date on the modern technology and are capable of reducing mean time to failure and or mean time to repair, and keeping you up and running. So another plan solution. And then there's the other category or the other pocket, which would be considered reactive solutions, right? So you've got a downtime event. You don't have necessarily the expertise to solve the problem. So reactive solution would be to call in a field service engineer as a resource. And we could work with you to coordinate and organize that person and get them on site to help you get you back up and running, and provide some insight to you for downtime events. And then there's also remote technical support, which would typically be your first line of defense in a reactive solution. And there's videos on our selection. If you go to our YouTube page that are on some of these specific items already. So I know IB's there, and I know that remote technical support is there for sure. So there is information out there to give you some more depth on these solutions. Okay, so we're leading up to the PMA. So what is the PMA? How does it help me, right? Again, it's an inventory solution to help provide you with so many benefits other than just running out and buying some spare parts just to get something on the shelf, right? It's the piece of the puzzle that might be missing for you guys, trying to figure out how to handle your inventory, right? So what is it? What does it look like? What are the features of a PMA? So on-site spare parts, right? We've been talking about critical spares. And what the PMA allows you to do is have reliable, which is kind of important, OEM-owned parts on your shelf. It's a contractual agreement that would it's built to have monthly payments so that you have on-site spares on your site to make sure in downtime events you've got what you need to repair your equipment. And what are some of the other features? So in-service warranty. The in-service warranty, sometimes it may be years before you pull a part from the shelf to use on a machine. So if that's the case, it may have no warranty left on it. And for whatever reason, if the part fails within a few weeks or a few months, you really have kind of no recourse for that. The value of the warranty was used up just sitting on the shelf. So in-service warranty is a pretty I think, important part of how the PMA functions, and gives you that extra level of security there, to reduce expense, right? So you get the warranty on that piece of equipment to use it for a longer time. Flexibility. So we know when you buy spare parts, you own them, right? So they're not your, I mean, they're yours no matter, you know, the reason if you purchase them goes away or not. When that machine or piece of equipment goes away, you're still stuck with a dead inventory on the books. The PMA can help alleviate this problem. The flexibility allows you to add and remove parts when you need to. So when you do bring in that new machine, if you do have an existing PMA in place, you just kind of let us know, hey, we're looking at these pieces or these spare parts that we're going to need to add to our facility to make sure that the machine is can stay up and running if it goes down. And you know, we can provide you a quote, and within just a few emails, we can have you the part dispatching to be on your shelf, just like the other PMA parts. So, and also, you know, when you remove the old pieces of equipment, it allows for you to remove those items from the PMA. So after something's been on there a year, it can be removed as well, since you no longer need it. Replenishment options. So, you know, typically, if you look at some sort of a consignment agreement, which this is different from in many ways, you just put new parts into the consignment. It just replaces with new parts. Well, in the PMA, you can use remanufacturing services to replace your parts. So Rockwell Automation does remanufacture a lot of its components and parts. And what that does is enables you to get a completely remanufactured part back on your shelf. That's, as they say, as good or better than the new. A lot of times when parts are remanufactured, they get upgrades that weren't included in the original models, be it because a design change was made within the unit itself, or some components were found to be less reliable than others. Those engineering changes are also included in their remanufacturing process. So that's why they say like new or better. And another thing that comes with the remanufacturing of parts is not only the cost savings that you get from remanufacturing instead of replacing with new, but the in-service warranty for the PMA, the standard in-service warranty is 1 year in service. So from the day you put it in, that we record 1 year from that date, your warranty is valid. An added benefit of remanufacturing products is it's a second level of warranty there, right? So there are 3 service levels for remanufacturing. One is economy, which is the least expensive option, even though each level of remanufacturing goes through the same processes of remanufacture. It comes with a 1 year option, but the standard, which is an expedited remanufacture option, comes with an 18-month warranty. And then the exchange option comes with a 2-year warranty, and offers the added benefit of next day turnaround, typically, not in all cases, but next day, business day turnaround. So just putting that in the framework here, if you did an exchange on a remanufactured item core to replace an item in your PMA, it comes with a 2-year warranty. So if you, let's say you had to use that on a different piece of machinery as soon as it came in, your in-service warranty goes into effect. But you also, once that warranty expires, you had the 2-year service for that exchange item. So it's an added level of extra warranty that is built into the remanufacturing service when you replenish with remanufacturing. So again, more options for less cost to replenish and longer warranty periods. The great options here. Okay, so why do I need it? You we've been doing a lot of talking about inventories and challenges customers face, and um, now let's take a look at the main topic, the features. Um, Reduce MTTR, so mean time to repair, right? The benefits of this. When a customer has parts on their shelf, good reliable parts on their shelf, to repair a piece of equipment, you don't need to spend time looking for parts or having to wait for them to be shipped in because you don't have the parts, right? So having a PMA in place enables you to have good, reliable parts on your shelf so that when a piece of equipment goes down, your maintenance tech or engineer or whomever can run to the storeroom or wherever you keep your PMA parts and have something viable there to get it back up and running. This reduces downtime costs, increases overall effectiveness of your equipment. So great benefit for having these parts on site, reliable parts. Minimize inventory costs. Again, reducing dead inventory, lower cost replenishment options, flat monthly cost instead of a lump sum expense when you need to bring parts in. So overall, it just reduces the cost of the inventory on your shelf. Reduce the maintenance cost. This kind of ties right into inventory costs to some extent, right? So the reman options reduce the cost of the inventory. And that also is reflected in maintenance budgets when they check things out of the storeroom. So your moving average costs will go down for individual items. That's reflected in maintenance budgets. So yay for them. Also improve reliability, right? So if the parts through the PMA are more reliable on your shelf, then you have to replace them less often. And you have less dead spares sitting in inventory, right? So a part that's not really good. Improve reliability. That helps reduce maintenance costs because you're replacing less parts. Budget simplification. So not every customer accounts for spare parts in the same way. Sometimes it's a straight expense. Sometimes they can use project dollars to purchase. But there are options to pay for the PMA upfront with project dollars. We would just need to discuss that kind of ahead of time and make sure everyone's on the same page. You would just essentially pay for the first year or a full year of the PMA with project dollars in a lump sum amount instead of the monthly billing option, which is typically how PMAs are taken care of. But again, it does allow some budget simplification options for you. And if you were to purchase a PMA sort of upfront, so to speak, it would be less than outright purchase of the cost of those parts, just buying them outright. Eases obsolescence management. So again, removing product that you no longer need for replacement parts. When the new equipment comes in and the old equipment goes out, the PMA allows for those items to be taken off of your agreement and out of your hair, right? Improved inventory integrity. We kind of already covered this again, but I think it's very important. The parts on your shelf are good parts. They're reliable parts. It works again towards reducing mean time to repair. It reduces overall costs of ownership of equipment because they last longer, they run longer, and you reduce downtime. Ease of adding and removing parts. Another, again, simple email transactions. We can provide a quote for adding items to your PMA. And within a few days, we can have things begin to start shipping to you to get things on your shelf. Very simple process. Lifecycle management. So each quarter, the PMA auditor will come out and audit the PMA. As part of that process, they would provide a PMA audit report, and it would show that if there are any missing parts or parts that have open boxes. So that's another feature that can affect, you know, how your inventory is good or not within your spares. Is how are they being treated on the shelf, right? So but it also has the updated life cycle of each of those parts when the report is provided. It's a running reference of the life cycle status of those parts. And as you'll see here in our next slide, what does that mean? What does that life cycle management look like for Rockwell Automation? So these are the stages of parts for Rockwell Automation. You have active, which is the most current technology. That's the leading item in a specific product group. So for the sake of example, ControlLogix, most of that stuff would be considered active technology, right? Active mature. So this is product that's been on the market for a while, and it's still being used, but it is the older version. So the Slick family comes to mind as far as controllers as active mature product. Now, as things continue to develop for active mature, eventually Rockwell will release a discontinue date for products. So the discontinue date, once that's released, whether it's 2 years out or 18 months out or whatever that may be, that specific catalog number would go to the end of life status. So it's been announced. We know that in 24 months, this specific card, this specific controller will no longer be available. Now, it doesn't mean the whole product family goes end of life. It just means specific pieces. So a specific input-output card may go end of life before some of the other input-output cards go end of life within a specific category. So again, it's specific to each individual catalog number of Rockwell Automation products. And then, of course, the obsolescence or the discontinued date. So once that date is reached, it is no longer remanufactured. It is no longer available new. That does not mean that it cannot still be serviced through the remanufacturing process. That does still happen in most cases. So it can continue to be serviced. It just will not be available for a new purchase. And again, these are available within the report that's provided by the PMA auditor on a quarterly basis. And once those changes take place within the specific catalog numbers on that report, they will be reflected in that column on the report. So that really covers most of what I wanted to talk about for the PMA. I'm glad to take any questions that anyone may have, if there's any out there.
Thank you, Aaron. That was a wonderful presentation. Lots of great info in there. We don't have any live questions in the chat at this time, but I do have a couple questions that might come to mind for users considering a PMA.
Sure.
So I'll go ahead and cover those if that's good. The first one that folks might be wondering about is what happens to the inventory they already have if they choose to go with a PMA?
Yeah, that is kind of a popular question that you run into. Typically, what we advise the customer to do is you would use that specific inventory up through attrition. You can still put products on your shelf, or you can come back and add products to a PMA that you put in place to make sure you're providing the spare parts that you don't have in inventory. But what happens is we encourage you to go ahead and work through any existing inventory and just eliminate that off your shelf and off your books.
Okay, great. And another question that might come up is what happens if the auditor finds missing items in that report?
Yes, and that does happen. So, there may be situations where, the customer wasn't aware the part was pulled. The auditor does his report and he pulls, sees which items are missing. What he does is that report comes to us, and what we would do is process a quote for you, given the options that you prefer, whether it be through remanufacturing, if you have a core available to remanufacture, or if it's a case where you don't have a core and you can't find it, we would put together a quote for you just to replenish with a new item. So we'll work with you when things aren't found on the or found to be missing through the audit.
Okay, great. So it's really a case by case basis.
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, well, for anyone watching now or watching this as a recording, if you have further questions for Aaron or about the PMA in general, please feel free to reach out to us at that email address there on your screen, macandmaclive@ncu-mc.com. Just be sure to let us know the title of the session so we can get your question to the right person. All right, thank you, Aaron, for a wonderful presentation today, and thank you to Lindsay for being our resource out in the comments section. And most of all, thank you for all of our live viewers for your time today. We hope this session was informative and engaging for you. Remember to subscribe to the McNaughton-McKay YouTube channel for more industry content like this, and we look forward to seeing you live again soon. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.